This first story comes from James, a 27-year-old janitor who worked the night shift at a corporate high-rise in Chicago in 2023. The building was modern, all glass and steel, with 20 floors of offices that emptied out after 6 p.m. James's job was to clean the floors, restock supplies, and lock up. Most nights, it was just him, the hum of the vacuum, and the occasional security guard. But one night in November, something happened that made him question everything. It was around 1 a.m., and James was mopping the 15th floor. The hallway was silent except for the slosh of water and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. He was near the elevator when he heard a soft ding, like it had just arrived. That was odd. The elevators were supposed to be locked down after midnight unless manually operated. Curious, he walked over and saw the door slide open. The elevator was empty, its mirrored walls reflecting the dim hallway lights. James shrugged it off, figuring it was a glitch, and pressed the button to send it back to the lobby. But as the doors started to close, he heard a faint whisper from inside the elevator, like someone breathing the word stay. His heart skipped a beat. He stared into the empty elevator, his reflection staring back, but the air felt heavy, like someone was standing just out of sight. He let the doors close and went back to mopping, trying to shake the unease. 20 minutes later, the ding came again. The elevator doors opened, revealing the same empty interior. This time, James didn't move closer. He called out, "Hello? Anyone there?" No response. Just as the doors began to close, he saw it. A handprint on the mirrored wall, smudged and faint, like it had been there for years. But he was certain it hadn't been there before. His stomach twisted as he grabbed his radio and called security. "Hey, Mike, you using the elevator?" Mike replied, "Nah, I'm in the lobby." "Why?" James decided to take the stairs down to report it in person, but as he reached the 10th floor, he heard the elevator ding again, behind him. He turned, and the doors opened. The lights inside flickered, and now there were more handprints, dozens of them, covering the mirrors like someone had been clawing at the walls. A cold draft hit him, carrying that same whisper, "Stay." He bolted down the stairs, his footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. When he reached the lobby, he told Mike what happened. They checked the elevator footage together. The camera showed the elevator stopping on the 15th floor, doors opening, but no one was there. Then, just as the doors closed, the footage glitched, and for a split second, a shadowy figure appeared in the corner, its face blurred. James never took the elevator again. To this day, he wonders who, or what, wanted him to stay. This next story comes from Rachel, a 30-year-old cashier who worked the overnight shift at a 24-hour gas station in Nevada in 2022. The station was small, just a counter, some shelves, and a glass door that locked automatically after midnight. Rachel worked alone most nights, with only the hum of the coolers and the occasional car passing by on the highway. She was used to the quiet, but one night in July, something made her feel like she wasn't alone. It was around 3 a.m., and the store was empty. Rachel was restocking cigarettes behind the counter when she heard a faint tapping on the glass door. She looked up, expecting a late-night customer, but no one was there. The parking lot was dark, lit only by a single flickering streetlight. She checked the security monitor, but it showed nothing, just the empty lot and the highway beyond. Shrugging it off, she went back to work. 10 minutes later, the tapping came again, louder this time, like someone was rapping their knuckles on the glass. She walked to the door, her heart beating faster, and peered out. Still no one. The lot was empty, the streetlight flickering wildly now. She double-checked the lock. It was secure. "Maybe it's the wind," she muttered, but the air outside was still. As she turned back to the counter, she heard a new sound, a slow, deliberate creak, like the door was opening. She spun around, and her blood ran cold. The door, which she'd just checked, was ajar, just a crack, letting in a sliver of cold air. She slammed it shut and locked it again, her hands shaking. "Who's out there?" she shouted, but the parking lot remained silent. She called her manager, who told her to stay calm and check the cameras. The footage showed the door opening on its own. No one was there, no movement outside. Rachel tried to focus on work, but an hour later, the tapping started again, faster, more insistent. She ignored it, her heart pounding, until she heard a low whisper from right behind the counter. "Let me in." She screamed and grabbed the phone to call the police, but the line was dead. The lights in the store flickered, and the door creaked open again, wider this time. Rachel ran to the back room, locking herself in until morning. When the police arrived, they found no signs of a break-in, but the security footage showed the door opening repeatedly throughout the night, with no one visible. Rachel quit the next day. She still doesn't know what was trying to get in or if it ever left. This story comes from Alex, a 25-year-old factory worker who worked the night shift at a manufacturing plant in Michigan in 2024. The plant was huge, with sprawling machinery and a maze of corridors. Alex's job was to monitor the assembly line, making sure everything ran smoothly. Most nights, it was just him and a few others, spread out across the massive facility. The place was noisy, with the constant clank of machines, but one night in March, a different sound caught his attention. It was around 2:30 a.m., and Alex was checking the control panel in the main production room. The intercom system crackled to life, which was strange. It was only used during the day for announcements. A voice came through, low and distorted, saying, "Alex, come to the basement." He froze. No one used the basement. It was just storage for old equipment, locked off for safety reasons. He pressed the intercom button and said, "Who's this? Stop messing around." No reply, just static. He radioed his co-worker, Sam, who was in another section. "Sam, you on the intercom just now?" Sam said, "No, I'm on the other side of the plant." "What?" Alex brushed it off as a prank, but the uneasy feeling lingered. He went back to work, the clanging machines drowning out his thoughts. But 15 minutes later, the intercom crackled again. This time, the voice was clearer, almost pleading. "Alex, please." The basement. His heart raced. He checked the security cameras, but the basement feed was black, either broken or turned off. He grabbed his flashlight and headed to the basement door, which was locked with a heavy padlock. He called out, "If someone's down there, answer me." Silence. He turned to leave, but then he heard it, a faint scratching from behind the door, like nails dragging on metal. Alex backed away, his flashlight shaking in his hand. The intercom crackled again, but now it wasn't a voice, just a low, guttural hum, like someone breathing into the mic. He ran back to the control room and locked the door. The rest of the night, the intercom stayed silent, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. When he checked the basement the next day with his supervisor, the door was still locked, but the floor was covered in fresh scratches, like something had been clawing to get out. Alex never worked alone again, but he still hears that voice in his dreams, calling him to the basement. Story 4. The Shadow in the Call Center. Our final story comes from Emily, a 28-year-old who worked the night shift at a call center in Florida in 2021. The call center was in a strip mall, surrounded by empty storefronts. Emily handled customer service calls, often alone, with rows of empty cubicles stretching out in the dim office. The job was monotonous, but the quiet of the night shift always felt unsettling, like the building was holding its breath. One night in September, Emily was on a call around 4 a.m. when she heard a faint tapping from the other side of the office. She muted her headset and listened. The tapping was rhythmic, like someone typing on a keyboard, but she was the only one there. She finished her call and walked toward the sound, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor. The tapping stopped as she got closer, leaving only silence and the hum of the air conditioning. She checked the cubicles, her flashlight sweeping over empty chairs and dark monitors. Nothing. She figured it was the building settling and went back to her desk. But an hour later, the tapping started again, louder, closer, coming from a cubicle just out of sight. She called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer, but the tapping stopped. Her heart was pounding as she grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. As she approached the cubicle, she saw something that made her freeze. A shadow, tall and humanoid, stretched across the wall. It wasn't moving, but it didn't match any object in the room. She shone her flashlight directly at it, but the shadow stayed, darker than the surrounding darkness. Her breath caught as she heard a whisper, low and raspy, right behind her. "You're not alone." Emily screamed and ran to the exit, her keys jingling as she unlocked the door and stumbled into the parking lot. She called her supervisor, who arrived an hour later. They checked the office together, but found nothing, no shadow, no signs of anyone else. The security cameras showed Emily running out, but the cubicle where the shadow was appeared empty. Emily quit the next week. But what chills her most is that the shadow didn't leave when she did. She swears she saw it again, weeks later, in her rearview mirror as she drove home at night.